You land at Los Angeles International Airport with $847 in your checking account and a suitcase you already regret packing. You are 22 years old. You have a film degree. You have a dream that feels enormous and specific, the way dreams always do before reality gets close enough to touch them. You don't know anyone in Los Angeles. You don't know how any of this works. You don't know that the city is full of people who came here with the same dream and the same $847 and the same certainty that they were the one who was going to make it. But you're here now, and that matters more than you know, because this is where the story begins, and you have no idea where it ends. Level 1, the intern. The internship pays nothing. You knew this going in. What you didn't know is that nothing refers to the money, not the work. You arrive at 7:30 every morning. You leave at 9 every night. You make coffee. You copy scripts. You organize files that don't need organizing. You answer phones when the real assistants are on the other line. You pick up lunch orders for people who don't learn your name for 3 months. You are furniture, functional, necessary, completely beneath acknowledgement. But here's the thing about being invisible that nobody tells you. Invisible people see everything. You sit in the back of rooms where decisions are being made. You watch which executives walk into meetings like they own the building, and which ones walk in like they're hoping nobody notices they're late. You see who has real power and who just has an expensive parking spot. Those are not the same thing in this town. They are almost never the same thing. You notice the executive on the third floor who never says please. His assistant changes every 6 months like clockwork. You file that away. Power and respect are different currencies in Hollywood. Some people spend their whole careers confusing the two. You also notice the other interns, 22 of them, from film schools and business schools and places you've never heard of. Most of them will leave within a year. The ones who are hungry, who take notes when nobody's watching, who ask smart questions at the exact right moment, those are the ones still standing in 15 years. One of them will run a streaming platform. One of them will win an Oscar. One of them will become your biggest rival. You don't know which one yet. Neither do they. You're not in the game. You're watching the game. But watching is how you learn the rules, and you need the rules before you can break them. After 4 months, someone notices you. Not a studio head, not a producer. A mid-level coordinator named Marcus who needed someone to fill in for a week while his assistant was sick. You fill in so well that Marcus recommends you to his boss. You get the call on a Tuesday. You are now a real assistant. Level 2, the assistant. Your boss is a senior executive at a production company that has a first-look deal with a major studio. You don't fully understand what that means yet. You will. You answer her phones from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Then you forward them to your personal cell. Then you go home and answer them from there. You manage her calendar, her travel, her dry cleaning, her dinner reservations, her daughter's school pickups when things run long. You are not just her assistant, you are her second brain, her logistics department, and the first wall between her and everything she doesn't want to deal with. The phone calls are where you learn everything. Important people don't email the important things, they call. And you answer every call before it rings twice, and you take notes on every word. You hear deals being discussed before they're announced. You hear projects being killed before the writer even knows. You hear names that will be everywhere in 18 months, right now, before anyone outside this building has heard them yet. Here is the secret that every great assistant eventually figures out. The assistant layer is the most information-rich layer in Hollywood. Executives don't talk freely in front of other executives, but they talk in front of assistants the way people talk in front of furniture. And assistants talk to each other. The assistant network in this town moves faster than the trades. If you're paying attention, you know what's happening before the people making it happen know it themselves. You are paid $900 a week. Your rent is $1,600 a month. You work it out. You don't complain. Complaining is for people who don't understand that what they're getting isn't a salary. It's an education. After 2 years, your boss is offered a bigger job at a streaming company. She can't take you with her. The new company has its own people. But she does something better. She emails 14 people and tells them you are the most capable assistant she has ever had. In Hollywood, a warm referral from someone with real relationships is worth more than a Harvard degree. Your phone rings 5 times in 3 days. You pick the best offer. Assistant to a senior talent agent at one of the top 3 agencies in the world. The job starts in 2 weeks. You don't sleep much between now and then. Level 3, the agent's assistant, the one who learns the machine. The agency is a machine. It runs on calls, deals, information, and fear. Your boss has been doing this for 22 years. He represents actors and directors and writers whose names are on the posters of films you grew up watching. He moves money the way other people move air, effortlessly, invisibly, constantly. You are his gatekeeper, his call sheet manager, his follow-up machine, his memory. Every morning at 6:45, you have 23 calls out before he even arrives. The East Coast is already 3 hours ahead, and deals are happening right now that your boss needs to be part of. You listen to everything. That is not snooping, that is the job. You take notes on every call. You track what was said, what was implied, and what was left unsaid on purpose. You learn the vocabulary of Hollywood negotiation, where nobody says what they mean directly, and everything means something. Here's what you learn in this building that changes how you see the world forever. The movie poster says, "A film by the director." But the movie doesn't exist because of the director. It exists because someone assembled the right actor, the right script, and the right director, wrapped them into a package, and sold the combination to a studio before a single frame was shot. That person is the agent. The packaging fee on a major studio film can be $15 million. The director gets the poster credit. The agent gets the check. Nobody outside this building knows that. Nobody outside this building was meant to know that. You also learn something about power that most people never figure out. Power in Hollywood is not about what you say yes to. It's about what you say no to. Your boss can make an actor available to a project, or he can make them unavailable. He can open a door, or he can make sure it stays closed. Studios that treat his clients with respect get access. Studios that don't get frozen out of the best projects for years. He never threatens anyone. He never has to. The system understands itself. After 2 years, your boss promises you a promotion to junior agent. He promises it 3 times. On the 3rd time, you walk into his office and tell him you have an offer from a management company. You don't have an offer, but you say it with complete confidence. He promotes you that Friday. You have learned something important about yourself. You can hold still under pressure and say the thing that needs to be said with full conviction. That skill will carry you further than any title. Level 4, the manager. You have your own clients now, 4 of them. An actor who almost landed a Marvel role 2 years ago. A screenwriter whose spec script got optioned but never produced. A director who makes award-winning short films and is trying to get her first feature off the ground. A comedian with 300,000 followers who has never been on a real set. None of them are making you rich yet. But each of them trusts you completely. And in the management business, trust is everything because trust is your only product. The manager's job is different from the agent's job in a way that matters enormously. Agents sell, managers build. You are not just finding your clients' projects, you are shaping who they become in this industry. Which roles to take, which to turn down even when the money is good. Which director is worth waiting 2 years for. Which opportunity looks like a breakthrough but is actually a trap that will define how the industry sees them for the next decade. This requires you to be a strategist, a psychologist, a cheerleader, and sometimes a grief counselor, because rejection in this industry is not occasional. It is constant. It is the weather. You work on commission, 10% of everything your clients earn. When they earn nothing, you earn nothing. The math is motivating in ways that corporate salaries never are. Here's the counterintuitive thing you learn about talent, the thing that genuinely surprises you. The clients who are most difficult to manage become the biggest stars. The ones who listen to your advice carefully and do exactly what you recommend tend to stay at a steady mid-level for their entire careers. But the difficult ones, the obsessive ones, the ones who believe in something nobody else can see yet, the ones who would rather lose money on a passion project than take a safe job, those are the ones who break through. Your job is to survive managing them long enough to reach the other side. After 5 years, you have 16 clients. 2 of them have genuinely broken through. One is a series regular on a major network show. One just quietly booked a supporting role in a film that hasn't been announced yet. A film with a $200 million production budget and a guaranteed global audience. Your phone rings on a Tuesday morning. It's an executive from a major studio. They've been watching how you work. They want to talk about a different kind of opportunity. Level 5, the studio executive. You join the studio as a vice president of production. You have a parking spot with your name on it, an office with a window, 2 assistants, a development budget that in 1 quarter exceeds everything you spent in 5 years of managing, and you quickly discover something that the title never tells you. You don't have power, you have resources. Those are completely different things. Power comes from relationships. from directors who want to work with you specifically, from writers who send you their best material first because they trust your taste and your notes, from talent agencies that bring you the scripts that matter because they know you'll read them carefully and give a straight answer instead of a delay that means no. Resources without relationships is a beautiful office with nobody calling. You spend your first 8 months doing almost nothing but listening. Every pitch meeting, every development conversation, every breakfast with a producer, you ask more than you talk. You learn what the studio needs, what it's afraid of, what it has said yes to reflexively for years out of habit rather than strategy. You learn something about institutional culture that will shape every decision you make from this point forward. Most of what gets developed at a studio does not get developed because someone believes in it. It gets developed because someone needed to say yes to something. The executive who passes on everything gets fired. The executive who says yes, thoughtfully, strategically, rarely, that executive builds a reputation. That reputation is what you're building now. You greenlight your first solo project in month 14, a small film, $22 million budget, a director nobody outside the industry knows yet, a script that made you sit up straight the first time you read it at midnight on a Thursday. The film wins 2 independent film awards and gets picked up for wide streaming release. Critics call it a quiet revelation. Nobody outside the building knows you were the one who said yes. That's the job. The director gets the credit. The audience gets the film. You get the relationship. And in Hollywood, relationships compound the way money compounds in a bank account. Slowly, then all at once. 3 years in, you're offered a bigger title, a seat at the table where the real decisions are made. Level 6, the head of production. Your job is no longer about individual films, it is about the slate, the identity of the studio, what this company tells the world about itself with every project it chooses to make. You now decide which stories get told. Sit with that for a moment. You decide which stories get told, which voices get amplified, which first-time filmmaker gets her shot, and which veteran gets a second chance at something they almost had once. You control the creative pipeline of an institution that reaches hundreds of millions of people. That is not a small thing. That is not something to hold lightly. The meetings you're in now are not development meetings anymore. They're strategy meetings, franchise planning, IP acquisition, market analysis for every major global territory. You are no longer thinking about whether a script has a good third act. You are thinking about whether a character can anchor a 10-year cinematic universe. You are thinking in decades now, not in production cycles. Here's the thing about running a studio's production division that nobody who hasn't done it can fully understand. You stop watching movies for pleasure, completely. Every film you see becomes material being analyzed. What worked, what didn't, why the audience left satisfied or didn't. The thing that brought you to this industry, the feeling you got at 17 in a dark theater when a great film moved something in you, that feeling has been replaced by something professional and cold. You are a student of the audience now, not a member of it. There is a grief in this that you never expected. You mourn it quietly, the way you mourn things you can't explain to other people. Your days begin at 5:15 a.m. Your car ride is calls. Your mornings are pitches. Your afternoons are development, marketing, distribution, casting. Your evenings are screenings, dinners, and events that serve the work even when they feel like anything but. You fight for a film internally for 8 months. Everyone above you thinks it's a mistake. The premise is too unconventional, the budget too high for a director who has never worked at this scale, the subject matter too challenging for the audiences the finance team has modeled. You push, you argue, you present the case 11 times in slightly different ways until the people above you run out of specific reasons to say no. The film gets made, $160 million. It wins 3 Academy Awards. You are no longer someone building a reputation, you are someone with one. Level 7, the studio president. They promote you to president. You now oversee every division. Features, television, streaming, music, international. Thousands of employees. A balance sheet that qualifies as a small country's economy. Every creative decision in this company runs through you in some form before it becomes reality. The politics at this level are genuinely extraordinary. You have 5 division presidents beneath you, a chairman above you, a board above the chairman, a parent corporation above the board. Everyone has opinions about what the studio should make. Most of those opinions are driven by quarterly earnings reports, not by art or audience instinct. Your job is to stand in the gap between what the spreadsheet wants and what the culture needs, and find something that satisfies both without destroying either. Here is what surprises every studio president who has ever held this title: the loneliness. Not loneliness in the way that word usually means. You're surrounded by people at all times: assistants, lawyers, executives, advisors, publicists, security. But there is almost nobody left in your professional life who will tell you the unvarnished truth. The people who used to challenge you, who pushed back, who said, "I think you're wrong about this." Those people have either risen to levels where they compete with you, or fallen to levels where honesty could cost them too much. The information you receive has been filtered. The feedback you get has been shaped. You are operating on information that was processed through the agendas of everyone who delivered it. Learning to see through that, to find the real signal under the performance, that becomes the most important skill you possess and the hardest one to teach. You also discover something about public failure that no amount of preparation makes easier. Your successes are divided. Dozens of departments, hundreds of people, all of them rightfully claiming their share. Your failures are entirely yours. They land on the front page of the trades with your name in the headline. The public anatomy of your mistakes is a specific kind of humiliation you were not fully prepared for. You run the studio for 6 years. In that time, you produce films that win 9 Academy Awards, gross $3.2 billion worldwide, and launch the careers of 7 directors who become household names. You also have 3 catastrophic failures: films you believed in, made right, and watched confound the audience in ways you still don't entirely understand. The failures teach you more than the wins. You learn to say that without it feeling like a performance. The chairman retires. The board calls you. Level 8. The chairman. The chairman does not run the studio. The chairman runs the people who run the studio. The distinction seems small. It is not small. You are now responsible for the entire filmed entertainment division: features, television, streaming, international, home entertainment, licensing, live events. 5 division presidents report to you, a workforce of 4,000 people, a creative output that touches billions of people every year across every screen in the world. Your conversations have changed completely. You no longer talk about individual projects. You talk about portfolio strategy, franchise equity, global IP positioning, technology investment, regulatory exposure, talent economics, and the quarterly earnings calls where Wall Street analysts ask whether the creative decisions you made 8 months ago are going to generate returns on a timeline that makes them comfortable. These analysts have never made a film. They have never sat in a room with a filmmaker trying to find the ending of something that matters. They understand the business in a very specific way that has almost nothing to do with why audiences actually go to movies. Navigating the gap between those two realities is, in many ways, the entire job. You testify before Congress about streaming regulation. You sit on industry boards that write the rules. You give speeches at festivals that aspiring filmmakers attend, hoping to hear wisdom they can use. You try to give them something real. One morning you read in the trades that your parent company has been acquired, a technology conglomerate, $58 billion. The deal was in negotiation for 5 months, and nobody told you until the night before it closed. The press release thanks you for your leadership. The subtext is clear. You are no longer the chairman. You are an expensive employee in a building that just got new owners. You schedule a meeting, you negotiate your exit, you leave on your terms, or at least the version of your terms that will become the public record. You are 61 years old. You have more money than you can spend. You have relationships across every industry that touches entertainment. And for the first time in 40 years, you have no title. It is terrifying. It is also, quietly, a relief. Level 9. The Mogul. You build something of your own. The production company launches with a 9-figure fund. You raise it in 11 days because investors call you before your pitch deck is finished. Your name alone is the pitch. That is a specific and unusual kind of power. It took you 4 decades to build it. The things you can do now that were impossible inside a corporate structure are extraordinary. You can develop a project for 5 years without a quarterly review. You can bet on a first-time director's vision that a committee would never approve. You can walk away from distribution deals that feel wrong even when the money is right. You answer to no one. You have never answered to no one before in your entire career. But here's the thing about the mogul level that people on the outside don't understand, and that you yourself didn't fully understand until you were here. The mogul isn't just making films and television. The mogul is shaping the industry itself. You sit on boards that write the rules for how content is distributed. You fund political campaigns that affect the tax incentives that determine where productions are made and which communities benefit from them. You invest in the technology companies building the distribution infrastructure that every filmmaker of the next generation will use. You decide, in ways large and small and sometimes invisible, who gets access to the machine and who doesn't. That is a completely different kind of power than greenlighting a film. That is structural power, the kind that outlasts any single project, any individual company, any executive regime, the kind that determines the shape of the industry that your successor will inherit. You think about this some mornings, early, before the assistants arrive. You think about the 22-year-old who flew into LAX with $847. You think about what she would have said if someone had told her that this is where the road went, what she would have had to give up, whether the math adds up the way it would need to feel fully worth it. You are not sure. You suspect that it never fully adds up for anyone who does this, because the thing that carries you from an unpaid internship to a chairmanship and then beyond, that specific kind of drive, it doesn't reward itself. It doesn't arrive at satisfaction and rest. It moves to the next thing. It has always moved to the next thing. Your name is on buildings in this city. Your name is in the credits of films that will be watched long after you are gone. But some mornings, in the quiet before the machine starts running again, you think about a movie you saw at 17. A dark theater in a small town. The lights went down. The screen came alive. And something moved in your chest that you had never felt before. The specific certainty that stories mattered. That the people who made them were doing something real. That you wanted, more than anything, to be part of it. You are part of it. You became, in some ways, the center of it. You are still not entirely sure if the feeling ever came back, or if the searching was always the point.